Today we're going to talk about Uniswap and where price could be going in 2022, as well as a breakout that is occurring today. So we're going to talk about all of that in today's video. And speaking of this video, if you guys want to get notified as soon as I release these, be sure to subscribe to the channel below and also click that bell icon. All right, so with that said, looking at the Uniswap chart over the past year or so, the market overall looks really healthy. I know we've had this period of just kind of boring, choppy price action, but it has followed the uptrend that we saw last year. So we got this move higher, and since that time, we've just seen Uniswap and a lot of other markets move sideways. Now, a lot of times, patterns like this, okay, this wedge pattern that you see here, often acts as a continuation pattern where you get the move up, you get the sideways movement, and then in this case, sometime later this year, I would expect to see Uniswap break out of this pattern and continue that uptrend. Okay, now there's no way to know exactly when that's going to happen, but again, over the next few months, I would expect some upward movement from Uniswap and of course the rest of the crypto market. That of course assumes that Bitcoin is going to cooperate, because we know that a lot of these cryptos like Uniswap do follow Bitcoin's lead. Okay, so with that in mind, let's go ahead and take a look at the short-term price action. I'll show you guys exactly what I'm looking at here, and especially the breakout that we're seeing this week. So there are a few things I want to point out, and the first is going to be this area right around $19. So this is going to be critical for Uniswap to close above to flip this back to support. So you can see back here it was support, and then over the past few weeks it has been serving as resistance. So we need to see Uniswap close the day above $19 to flip it to support. And that's incredibly important, because just because it's trading above $19 right now doesn't mean it's flipped it back to support. We need to see a daily close above that level to flip it back to support. Now, this area is also a confluence area based on a trend line off of some of these highs. So you can see here over the past few months, we do have a short-term trend line off of some of these highs back here, as well as this swing high and also the last few weeks. Okay, so this becomes a area of confluence around $19 for Uniswap. So if it can close above this area here today, tomorrow, whenever, that should flip to support and we could see that push higher. Now, the next area I would pay attention to is going to be this region up here, right around $22. And you can see that we do have this area is also a confluence of resistance up here. So we have these lows back here, and we also have several highs, and this horizontal level also intersects with that all-time high trend line. Okay, so this up here is the trend line off of the all-time high that intersects right around $22 to $23. So that's going to be a confluence of resistance in the same way that $19 is also an area of confluence. So close above 19 and we could very well see Uniswap trend higher up here toward $22 to $23. Now, since we're on the topic of short-term levels, let me go ahead and show you also what we could be looking at if Uniswap does break out from that trend line off of the all-time high. So we have several highs through this area right around $27 and above that up here around $31. All right, so those would be the key areas I'd keep an eye on here over the next few weeks if we were to see a close above 19, move up toward 22, and then break out from there. But one thing that you have to keep in mind here, and there are a couple things I want to point out. The first caveat is you have to understand the conditions that we're in. We are no longer in conditions like we saw back here during this run-up. Okay, so obviously back here, we just saw, day after day, week after week, just consistent gains during the bull market. And we're no longer in those conditions. Same thing applies to Bitcoin, Ethereum, etc. So we are very much in consolidation. So even if we get a break above 19, don't expect the market to just take off and move higher like it did back here during this period, because we're no longer in those type of conditions. Okay, so I think that we could get a breakout here up toward 22 as long as Bitcoin cooperates. And that brings me to the second caveat here, and that is Bitcoin. So we have talked about this in the past couple of weeks. I just mentioned it a couple of days ago, where ever since early 2021, if you'll notice, Bitcoin loves to fill in liquidation candles. All right, liquidation wicks. And what I mean by that is if you look ever since early 2021, every single time we have a liquidation wick, just like we got back here on December 4th, Bitcoin fills in that wick. Okay, it fills it in and even moves up a little bit lower before moving higher again. So especially back here in May, you can see where we got the fill of this wick back here, move below it, and then same thing back here before Bitcoin moved higher. Now, same thing back here, we had the liquidation wick. Bitcoin moved to the bottom of that wick and then also just below it before we saw the market move higher again. So if we do see something similar this time around, then we could be looking at Bitcoin down toward $42,000, potentially $40,000. And a move like that is going to weigh on cryptos like Uniswap. So it's not just about analyzing Uniswap in a silo. You can't do that. You have to look at the entire market. Where is Bitcoin? If Bitcoin were to test $42,000, $40,000, where could that put Uniswap? And obviously that's going to put pressure on other cryptos like Uniswap. So with regard to that, what I would watch for Bitcoin, since we're on the topic, is a close below 45. So this area has been critical support here over the past few weeks. So if we were to see Bitcoin close below this area around $45,000, that could be the indication that we're going to get that move down toward this area. Okay, right around 40, maybe 42,000. And again, if that happens, Uniswap is also going to suffer. So you have to look at the entire market, including where Bitcoin is. And if it does close below 45, that could put some other cryptos in trouble. Now, alternatively, if we were to see Bitcoin move higher from 45 back up here toward 53 and close above this area, then that could also coincide with Uniswap breaking out from that $22 to $23 area, in which case the game could change here and we could see the entire crypto market move higher. But until that happens, I am going to stay cautious, and especially if Bitcoin closes below 45,000. So looking back to Uniswap, if we do get that close above 19, as I said, I think there's a good chance, even if Bitcoin just stays sideways, that we get that push up into 22 to 23. But don't just expect the market to continue higher and just to go straight up like it did before, because again, we're not in that environment. We are still in a very sideways market. Okay, so I think that there is potential here in the short term for a move up toward 22, 23, as long as Bitcoin stays above 45,000. All right, if it doesn't, and we see Uniswap stay below 19 down here, then we could just see more consolidation, potentially a move down here toward some of these lows and highs, and then that push higher. All right, so overall, guys, I like the look of the chart. And speaking of the longer term view for Uniswap, I want to finish out, looking at where this market could go in 2022 if we do get that breakout. And one way to do that is to look at the height of this pattern, which is right around $30. All right, so measuring $30 from a potential breakout point later this year would give you a target up around $50. So there is, considerable room here, especially if we were to see Uniswap retest this $14 area. I mean, even from up here, a move from 22 to 23 up toward 50 later this year is still a significant gain. But even from $14, it's obviously, significantly more. So I think there's a lot of potential here for Uniswap this year and even over the short term, but you have to take the market conditions into consideration and also what Bitcoin is doing. If it closes below 45, expect a little bit more pain for cryptos. But ultimately, over the next few months, I do expect a breakout from Uniswap to the upside and a target up around that $50 area. So I hope that this video has helped. If you guys enjoyed the content, again, be sure to subscribe to the channel, click the bell icon, and also smash that like button to show me that you guys are enjoying this content. And also be sure to leave your comment below, and I will talk to you guys soon.